So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our last My Story for the year. This series is supported by Plant and Food Research, and so we're very grateful for them for their support and to everybody attending and all of our speakers. So today we have, and I didn't ask how to pronounce your name, which is terrible. I'm going to say Lysea.
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 Yeah.
Lysea from Qrious, who's going to give us a little bit of talk about her career path through engineering in a windy way. So over to you. If you
Great.
have any questions as the talk goes on, just pop them in the chat and we'll ask them at the end.
Great. Thank you so much, Emma. Just get my slides up. Um, Sorry, can't seem to find that one. Can you guys see the slides? Probably not. No.
Oh, yep, something's happening. I can see the top of your web browser.
Okay.
For some reason, we can only see the top.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't see the slides?
No.
Huh. Okay. Let me try that again. Technical difficulties. Very terrible for a consultant who works on slides a lot, so forgive me. Okay. What about that?
I can see a white screen with some typing on it.
Oh,
So
great. Okay, that's my slide.
perfect.
Awesome. Okay. Kia ora koutou, everyone. My name's Lysea. Thank you so much for giving up your lunchtime, maybe, and coming along to my talk. So when Ash and Emma asked me to do this, I felt like quite uncomfortable, like talking about myself, because usually I'm the one trying to get other people to talk about themselves. So this will be an interesting experience. So I'd like to just start with this quote saying, "Do I contradict myself? Very well. Then I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes." And that was by Walt Whitman. So that will kind of serve as like a whakatoki of the talk that I'm giving today. So just a bit about me. I consider myself very multidisciplinary and multicultural. So I wear a lot of different hats. I know most of you are probably scientists, but I came from a bit of a mixed background of science and engineering, which I'll talk more about later. I spent most of my life in Tamaki Makaurau, but I was born in the States and my family is of Filipino. So they came from the Philippines, but I'm also like ethnically Chinese. I also only speak English, which adds to my cultural confusion over there. I really like to look through the world through different lenses, and I believe that science is a really powerful one to be able to build accurate models and interpretations and understand, I guess, this thing that we call truth. So, as a child, I was definitely quite a big nerd. Spent a lot of my time reading books. And of course, I had learned the piano because Asian immigrant parents, why not? So, lots of piano and math in my childhood. I was also obsessed with Jane Austen, so loved Pride and Prejudice, like both the movie and the books. Probably watched it 100 times when I was little. So in high school, I got to try a whole bunch of different things. It's very fortunate, lucky, privileged me gets to do. And that just opened up my horizons to a lot of different hobbies. So things like sport, got involved with that. Picked up figure skating. My favorite subject at school was technology, so fashion design. Participated a lot in like wearable arts and just really found that engaging in the design process and the creative side was really exciting to me. I also watched this movie called Ice Princess, which was a Disney movie at the time. And there was just like this nerdy math and science girl who decided to build this program to help her with her figure skating, essentially. And I just thought that was like the coolest thing in the world that she could like build that. And so eventually that took me to decide to study engineering in university. During high school, I was also fortunate enough to go on like an exchange to Japan and found that like being in those different cultures and different immersions, learning different languages is also an interesting way of learning different things. So in high school, lots of my peers, I guess, were going off to do medicine, law, things like that, accounting. Most of them were going to university, and I obviously ended up going to university as well. I decided to do a conjoint because I'm the most indecisive person in the world, and I did engineering and science. So I wanted to major in sport and exercise science because figure skating and Ice Princess. So I majored in exercise science and science and biomedical engineering in engineering. Eventually, I actually decided to double major, or my major shifted more towards psychology because a bit to do with timetabling, to be honest. It was just that psychology papers could fit more, especially when you're doing a conjoint degree. You have to make those papers fit, and I was pretty determined to graduate in 5 years and not take too long to do my undergrad. So ended up doing psychology and found it like really interesting, just studying about the brain and how you become yourself and yourself in the world and all those interesting things. Engineering is obviously a lot about design and creativity, but grounded in physics and math. I really like that application. Even though I liked maths and physics in high school, it was really that building products. Like in the middle here, this is a sleep apnea monitor that we built as a team to monitor if if babies have any sleep apnea, and just practical implementation of instruments like that were really cool. I did my honors research in modeling of the tibia for runners, so creating digital models of bones and finding out whether someone is about to whether someone is likely to suffer from shin splints. So that was me at university. So after university, I really took bioengineering because I really like that human side, and I found that engineering is a little bit detached, right? Like I spent a lot of time doing assignments in labs, writing code, things like that, and I really wanted that like human interaction. So after university, I decided to go study teaching through a program called Akamata Tupu, which is Teach First New Zealand, and their mission is to be able to reduce educational inequality in New Zealand. So yeah, I guess this was quite a it was an experience for both personal and professional development. It really allowed me to engage with different communities, become a leader in my own classroom as well as my school. So that middle photo is me actually starting up a robotics club where I got to introduce young women into STEM. And while I was a teacher, I also met my husband, who was a physics teacher in the same program as well. So I spent a couple of years doing that. And after teaching, I guess I decided to go back to my original degree. I had kept in touch with some of my lecturers during university and kept in touch with some of the evolving technology that was happening. So at the time, there was a startup out of ABI called Soul Machines, and they were working on digital humans. So digital humans are like avatars that basically you can like engage with online and they'll like respond to you. They were really focused on the facial modeling, so modeling of like emotional reactions and basically like focusing on that human computer interaction side, which I just thought was a really cool application of both like I guess psychology and engineering. And so I decided to go do a PhD with them. They were really interested in motor control, and with my background in exercise science, my project focused on the motor system and how we can create models of intelligent and adaptable movement. So I had no idea that the field of computational neuroscience existed before I did this PhD, but that was definitely a journey. I'm really grateful for my supervisors for taking on this really niche project that neither of them were really an expert in. So as a PhD student, it is very independent by nature, but my project was especially so. Yeah, so essentially my PhD was on building neural networks of the motor cortex and trying to be able to like replicate brain activity and understand how that drives muscle activity further down the line. So this has applications in things like intelligent robotics, brain-computer interfaces, as well as obviously like artificially intelligent agents and things like that. So during my PhD, which I started just before 2020, so I spent most of my PhD also in lockdown, alone, isolated in my room, working on my code and my models. But I was also working part-time as the outreach coordinator for Women in Engineering. So really grateful for my team. Ashley was part of that as well. But that, so I was the outreach coordinator for Women in Engineering, which was a student-led club to be able to basically support women students in university and go out to high schools to be able to encourage more females into engineering as well. So as the outreach coordinator, I mainly worked on the school side. I communicated with teachers. I helped organize the workshops. I trained up a bunch of volunteers to be able to go out and deliver the workshops. And it was just really rewarding to be able to hear all these women who got really good at sharing their story, and they also felt more empowered when they shared their stories and had those interactions with the younger generation as well. I also learned quite a bit about like data processing here because we obviously like tracked and monitored the results of our workshops because sometimes you can intend to do something, but the outcome also matters. And so that was a really good opportunity for me to learn about things like, yeah, social intervention and effectiveness of programs and organizational design and things like that. So that was me working as an outreach coordinator. So at the end of my PhD, which I actually just defended, so I like defended like last month, but I submitted like last year, so that defense process like almost took a year. I started an internship at the Office of the Prime Minister's Chief Science Advisor. I heard you had Juliet Gerard, my old boss, as a previous speaker on this, so I'm honored to follow in her footsteps. So I was an intern at the OPMCSA. My project was focused on AI and applications in education. So over the summer, I worked on some resources to investigate these applications and what policies already exist that can protect things like privacy. And basically, there are not very many policies that protect people with this emerging technology. And but also I focused on the benefits and how it could be used potentially in the educational space to like support teachers and students. After the summer, the direction kind of shifted. So I was lucky that I got asked on to actually stay and work in the office for a little while. So for about a further 6 to 8 months. And I was involved in this project about preventing food loss and waste in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And that was a report delivered to um, that was a report delivered to Christopher Luxon. So, and made some policy recommendations on how we can use technology across the supply chain as well to reduce food waste for carbon emissions. So that was a really interesting time where I worked on how science can influence or make recommendations on policy and governance. And I really liked that applied side of research. So being able to use research to inform and guide specific actions. So after my stint at the OPMCSA, which actually ended in June this year, so pretty recently, there's also no current chief science advisor, which is quite interesting. So everyone in my office, like, I guess, lost their jobs, and there are numerous people across the public sector undergoing that currently. I was fortunate enough to land a job at Qrious, which is where I am currently. So Qrious is a spin out of Spark New Zealand, or a subsidiary of Spark New Zealand, and they are the data and AI specialists, essentially. So my job at Qrious is, as a consultant, I work with companies to be able to leverage data in their workplaces and essentially help their organizations be able to, sorry, I should get better at this. Um, I help organizations be able to leverage data for their decision making, and we look at the operational side. So more about the processes, the people, and the culture. So a lot of what Qrious does is actually implement and build these data platforms. So they work on like the technical side of it, but my role is in the advisory team, and we do the stuff kind of what I consider is all around that. So things like strategy and operations and literacy and things like that. So organizations can really leverage data. I find this like really funny that because we work in AI, that if AI were to replace consultants, then clients would have to be describing about what they want. Because currently, with AI being a buzzword, sometimes people want to be able to integrate these technologies without truly understanding why they want it or what they're going to use it for. So, so as an engineer, I am very deeply interested in technology, but obviously we can't just throw technology at a solution as a solution, and the solutionizing can involve lots of different things as well. So I have always been quite indecisive, and I kind of just want a taste of everything. That's why I think consulting suits me quite well, because I get to dip my toes in lots of different industries and wear lots of different hats. I think a lot of people or think that maybe you just like choose one thing and you are that. But I'd like to shift that narrative away from like you are just one thing. And you can be multiple different things and you can do lots of different things in your life. So I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of my 20s just like dabbling in lots of different fields and getting a taste of what it's like in different people's or different shoes and different industries. So, especially with AI in our increasingly digital world, I definitely agree that the hallmark of expertise is no longer how much you know, but it's how well you can synthesize this. And information scarcity rewards knowledge acquisition, and information abundance requires pattern recognition. So it's not enough to just collect facts, but the future belongs to those who can connect the dots. And coming from a background of engineering and design and neural networks, I really believe that the design, the structure, the how things are connected together and taking a more systemic view is really important as well. So the way I've always approached my career, I suppose, in making these decisions is I've always tried to find that like sweet spot. So it's always a balancing act of enjoyment, interest. Obviously, you work to get paid. Want to kind of maybe leave the world a better place, bit of a do-gooder, try to be, or as well as be able to build those skills and networks. And obviously, these like ebb and flow throughout your lifetime. Things may become more or less important as you navigate what else is going on in your life. So that sweet spot is that middle. And if anyone is familiar with that Japanese concept of ikigai, this is kind of like what this encapsulates. Yeah, so this is kind of like, I guess, a bit of a string theory approach of like there's so many different paths that you could have taken and that have gone, and so many in the future. And this is just a couple of snapshots of what I have done in my relatively short career. And this is where I am today. So this is what ChatGPT thinks my life looks like today. And I gotta say, I think it looks pretty good. Looks pretty accurate. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi. Yep. We have one question in the chat. So anyone else, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Thank you for that. That is a very varied career path that you've had. Um, so one of the questions is, could you give us an example or two about how AI could be used in the education sector?
Yeah, so I guess a lot of the applications of AI in education, it can be used for like reducing administrative burden. So teachers do a lot of obviously like marking and those kinds of like admin jobs, and AI can kind of like help just make that a bit faster or simplify that. So that'll reduce that marking burden and also the opportunity to maybe like personalize or produce adaptable learning. So to be able to really pinpoint where the students are at their current level, because as a teacher, you're kind of like teaching to the middle usually as a classroom, and that differentiation of like students' ability is like really hard. So AI could probably present that information or use that information more to be able to optimize the learning. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me
Yep.
know if you have any other questions or you want to pop in on the camera and chat. Very open to chatting.
Yeah. Any more questions out there? Um, I guess what have been your sort of key, how have you made the decisions that you've made to make all these sort of leaps and bounds, and what are the things that you sort of, what's your checklist look like when you get a new opportunity or yeah,
So
because
it's essentially,
it's very
yeah,
varied. You haven't gone very
yeah.
straight in any way, shape, or form. So I'm just like,
I think there's
yeah,
an overlap.
you get
I
to a
think,
point where you go, oh, I finished my
yeah.
PhD. Where, like, what should I do now?
I am a
What's
little bit of like follow my nose, see what I feel like in the moment person, but essentially it's kind of this, like, do I enjoy it, find it interesting? Like, is it not evil? Like, like is it some semblance of helping someone or yeah. And will it help obviously build my skills and networks for what I do in the future, which is sometimes obviously still unknown to me currently. And I need to get paid because I need to pay for things, right? So it's always a balancing act of all these different things, and I'm fortunate enough that I feel like I have room to be able to follow what tickles my fancy, or I can follow my nose to a certain extent and be like, oh, that sounds cool.
I guess because you said that you quite like people. People seem to be quite feature quite heavily in some of the study that you've done, and so I was thinking AI is not very
Yeah.
people-y.
So
So
I do go back I do go backwards and forwards because as I said, I was like the nerdiest child. So I was very much the child in my room, like reading books. I wasn't too much of like a social butterfly, but books actually are quite social. Like I mean, you're obviously engaging with characters and stories and narratives, and so I quite like, yeah, quite like that people-y side. But maybe it's more about like maybe I like humanity or like yeah, like the
so do
idea of positive humanity.
so do you, how much so in but in your current so you're a consultant in your current job, so I'm guessing there is some
I
people time,
am.
not and it's not just staring at a
Oh yeah,
computer and
there's a lot of
teaching
people
AI.
time. There definitely is. Yeah, no, because I'm non-technical. I'm in advisory. My role is purely dealing with people and trying to help them uncover like what they want or why they want to do something, what they're trying to do with data and AI. So it is mainly focused on data at the moment, to be honest, because a lot of organizations are quite low in their technological maturity. So you can't just adopt AI, like you need a solid data platform. You need to know why you want AI, and there's just so many other solutions than throw AI at it. Yeah. And I think that's kind of where I land in a lot of places. Like you can't just throw technology at the solution. Like yes, we help organizations adapt to technology or go through technological digital transformation. But I think AI has maybe encouraged a lot of like, oh my gosh, we need AI, we can't miss out. But actually there's a lot of steps in between. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so it's a question from Catherine, so she's done a lot of that kind of stuff in previous jobs as part of design work. So how
Oh,
can
interesting.
people find consulting roles like this? What advice would you have for someone looking for a consulting role rather than, I guess, an active STEM role?
Honestly, I kind of just applied on Seek. Like, gonna be honest, like, so I just honestly I was looking for an AI role. I know AI kind of hit the news in like 2022 or 2023 with ChatGPT. So I was like, oh, it's on people's radar. I wonder if there are any jobs in it because I'd done my PhD and I decided I didn't want to stay in academia. So I searched AI jobs on Seek and this role with Qrious came up and I was really excited about it. And met the team. Don't be afraid to meet people, go for coffee, chat about yourself. It was really interesting though. So when I applied to this job, they were saying that what interested them most about me and to be able to go into consulting was not my engineering degree. It was my teaching degree. And
Mm.
it was my work with outreach. So obviously consulting, like you said, is a very people-oriented job. And I guess a lot of people have technical skills, but to be able to be a good consultant, you both need that technical understanding and that ability to empathize and engage with people.
The
So,
so-called soft skills, which I hate as a phrase. So,
yeah, but I think they are actually really valuable, and people do maybe like undersell how much of it is actually a skill. Because even me, who definitely considers themselves a nerd and quite introverted and like sometimes I'm like, social skills are learned, aren't they? Yeah.
they they can be. They
So yeah,
can
just
be.
like
Mhm.
put yourself out there, go for coffee with people, like just have a genuine conversation about your interests and why you want to be a consultant. Because I am finding that a lot of people do want to be consultants, or it was also quite a popular career path in engineering, I suppose, like management consulting. And a lot of that is maybe to do with branding, prestige, status, um, wanting to travel, go on flights, and have fun. Yes, some people can view consulting as quite, yeah, quite a career, but
Mm.
hopefully, yeah, maybe you don't need so many consultants in the world, you know? Like,
The travel always sounds spectacular, but in reality, traveling for work is often not as exciting as it
yeah,
sounds.
yeah, yeah. Like, there's definitely a lot of interesting components to it. Like, I love problem solving, right? And consulting is essentially just like a client comes to you with a problem, you help them solve it. And I think that's just like really interesting and really cool. The variety appeals to me. Um, so yeah.
Yes.
But if you're going for a career in consulting, ask yourself why, go for it, talk to people about what consulting's really like. Maybe have a specific field that you want to consult in, even though consultants can be also generalists. Also, yeah. Anyway, next question.
I think that's all the questions in the chat. Does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, totally open to people just turning on their mics and
Mm, it's all
so
gone quiet
yeah,
in the chat.
yeah. Even though I have a PhD, I definitely consider myself quite a generalist. And I think there is quite a difference between a generalist and a specialist, and it's hard to be good at either. Mm. Like a
Mm,
PhD definitely gave me an appreciation. of a specialist and what it takes to develop expertise in one subject. And I think like respecting expertise is super important. But yeah, I like that.
What was it that didn't appeal to you about academia?
Um, Honestly, a lot of the culture, I think. Like it's always that whole like the ideal version of academia is really exciting, like the pursuit of knowledge, and I like the independence. But what I didn't like about it was probably a lot to do with like the instability. Like I didn't want to be constantly searching for grants. I think it's a very underfunded area currently, and I hope that the science reforms that Peter Gluckman come out with will maybe encourage more young scientists to follow or make that a sustainable career path. But I I could definitely see how I could spend my life just like trying to understand the brain, obviously. And I guess I didn't like the removal of it from practical application. Like it's a bit ivory tower.
Fair enough.
Mm. Yeah,
Okay.
writing papers. I feel that like no one really.
Writing papers, writing grant applications, lots of
Yeah,
writing.
not that I don't like writing, and yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll go back one day and realize like, oh, academia is great. But yeah, but for me, it was like not really. And like also opportunities in New Zealand, it might mean uprooting my husband to move. And I guess I did tour some labs in Europe and America, but like they weren't super appealing to go work there and get paid really crap. And they have no support system. And yeah, they, like lab culture matters. The people that you're working with matters. How much you feel like you belong there matters. So it's probably what did keep me in academia.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, then thank you very much for that presentation. That's yeah, it's always interesting to see the windy route that people take in their careers. I don't know many people who've actually gone for the straight shot.
No. Yeah,
It's
I think that's
often
very rare.
often there's a few steps off the path, if not just a mixture of paths altogether. So thank you very much for that. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you Plant and Food Research for your support. As I said, this is the last one for the year. We will be thinking about how we activate my story in 2025, which is scarily not too far away now. And hopefully we will be seeing you all at an AOS event soon. Thank you again.